have you.
Thanks for coming in. A lot to cover here in terms of how this trip fits into not only international relations, but global markets and the like. You heard some of what the president had to say. We talked about it yesterday. How important is this? Russia as the R in the BRIC countries that kind of doesn't get as much attention lately as some of those other emerging nations do.
Oh, obviously, China has somewhat usurped to some extent Russia, but Russia is a very important potential partner for the U.S. And I think Obama's approach to reopening relationship that was chilling for a while, and it's been a while that we have actually had a summit in Moscow. So after 7 years, Obama going out there and charming essentially the Russians, and also emphasizing partnership, emphasizing rebuilding trust and mutual respect is really a key part of I think the Obama strategy in terms of international scene.
What about yourself as somebody who might look at this as a potential investment opportunity? You know, people scared off to some degree by the corruption and other things inside Russia since the Soviet Union failed. How do you look at that now, 2009? You mentioned Obama's efforts there.
Absolutely. The risk is always priced in. You never say no to an investment. It's all a matter of price, right? And so we have been interested looking at emerging markets, including Russia, despite the risk, and we recommend having an open mind and looking at all investment opportunities. But in the case of Russia, obviously, a reduced risk would obviously improve prices. It's good for both sides.
And even though the economy is struggling there, the stock market has had a huge run. So
absolutely.
That's your point about price.
Exactly.
Yeah, so we have to look at them. We'll talk about that maybe a little bit later on in terms of how it fits into emerging economies in general. Ron, thank you very much. But Ashley has some news that's breaking this morning. What do you make of it?
Well, I think they've got a lot of challenges. We've gone from being around 17 million units per year to roughly about 7 million, and expected to go down given the job situation. The numbers came out, and we all know that the economic challenges going forward are huge. Combine that with the interference, or let's say considerations of having a government involvement in your management, in addition to looking at essentially what labor, if you will, involvement in decision making. This makes a big challenge for GM to compete with likes of Toyota, for example.
All right, and even Ford here domestically, which is in a relatively better position going into all this. That said, they come out with the debt being wiped away for the most part, the 4 brands as opposed to a larger portfolio. What would it take, IPO next year maybe, for you guys to be either a shareholder or at some point when debt is issued a bondholder in this new General Motors?
Well, the main thing is, I think, the economic recovery. I think before, under these economic conditions, being an auto manufacturer under very severe competition is a challenging situation in general. I think it's a tough business to really re-engineer yourself. As we know, developing new cars, the development cycle is actually fairly long. So I think for us to get interested in General Motors, we need, first of all, a very agile management. We need to make sure that they're inviting of new ideas, and they're also able to deal with labor issues in a much more effective way.
They're better set up for that now, right? I mean, than they were.
Absolutely.
So the question becomes at this point, how are they going to execute, right? I mean, and do you have confidence in the management team? It looks like Fritz Henderson staying around, at least for the time being. This is a better company than it was a couple years ago. You'd have to think, just logically speaking, off the lows, right?
If you look at the management composition, there's still a lot of old-timers.
Yeah, so you'd like to see some new blood in there, maybe.
Well, absolutely. I think we need to embrace new ideas. They need to bring in new thinking in terms of management style, and they need to be a lot more agile. As you've mentioned, Ford as being one of the competitions in the U.S. has been run a lot more openly and a lot more smartly, and have made sure that economic is really ultimately the decision drivers in general.
All right, Ron, more from you a little bit later on in the program. Thanks very much. RonDVari from New Oak Capital. Now, The telecom giants. There's a story in the Wall Street Journal about it this morning saying Verizon and AT&T may be under fire, possibly for antitrust violations. And Fox Business contributor, WStreet.com CEO Charles Payne is here. So is RonDVariJuly709, who's the CEO for New Oak Capital, has been with us all morning long. I mean, one of the examples, Ron, that they give in the story is you know, people go out to get a cell phone, maybe an iPhone that you're tied into having AT&T. You don't have a choice. I mean, I hadn't thought about it, but is this really a monopoly, do you think?
Yeah, I think there is some appearance of price fixing going on, in addition to having exclusive contracts with manufacturers. So, for example, text messaging has gone up to 20 cents a pop, and we know that, you know, now revolutions are driven by text messaging. So if we have a situation like that, if the cost gets too heavy, we can't, you know, we won't even have a revolution anymore.
Oh, yes.
So
it won't be televised.
It won't be televised, that's for sure.
Well, Charles, as long as they don't start charging for Twitter, we'll be fine. What do you think of this story? Because it does bring up this point, and I'm using the cell phone example. I guess there are other, you know, we could talk landlines, but the cell phone example, if we want a certain phone, we have to use the provider that it's exclusive to for a certain amount of time, usually.
Well, I don't see a problem with it right now. No, I don't. I mean, are businesses supposed to just not have any sort of joint ventures or, you know, I mean, it's creative ways of capitalism. Now, obviously, if the prices were, you know, demonstratively out of whack, but I think you have to look at the trends. Have the prices come down in recent years, or are they going up? And I think they've been coming down overall.
Now, would they come down more if there was more competition? I guess that's a concern that the Justice Department wants to bring up.
But there's a lot of different phones. I mean, you don't have to have the Apple iPhone. You know, I mean, there's a lot of different cell phones out there. And so, you know, there are a lot of different plans. I had a kid over at my house this weekend, said he had a $50 a month plan, all the texting, you know. So there are a lot of different plans out there. I think the landscape is still relatively competitive.
What do you think, Ron?
All I know that our telecommunication bills are going up, and they're going up more and more every day, and a lot of it is obviously, you know, we need you know, our phones more than we need gas now. So it is definitely a public good, and I think there is an appearance of some coordinated price setting going on. I think I'm more concerned about that as the device control, if you will.
Okay, so
because
what
I
about
think there is more competition in that era.
All right, so what about that point, Charles? Ron says that these companies there's some evidence here that maybe AT&T and Verizon are getting together and coordinating their prices, colluding.
Well, I don't know.
You don't see it?
It's real hard. You know, listen, what are they, you know, I mean, at some point, businesses have to be allowed to make a profit. It seems like profit's becoming a four-letter word these days. So I don't see it. I don't think my cell phone has gone up. I think maybe people use their cell phones more, but you know, I've seen really, I bought my son a cell phone the other day, and there was a tremendous amount of choices. I didn't understand any of them, but it was a tremendous amount of them.
That's right. Well, maybe that's another confusion.
Yeah, exactly. Now, they can work on the fine print. Hey, listen, I'll be right there with you.
The problem is nobody understands their plan anymore.
Well, that's true.
I mean, you almost need a law degree to read the contract, and I think the issue is really, at the end of the day, is the price setting behavior, and that's very hard to detect.
Hey, Charles, give me this BlackBerry. It's interfering with the audio. All right?
There you go.
That's it. What a way to recap the segment on the good grief.
It might be mine, actually.
Poor Charles.
It's not mine.
We both have their BlackBerries on.
We're colluding.
Yeah, we're colluding, that's for sure.
All right.
Well, did you hear the joke? I went and signed
joke?
Yeah, well, I went to get a cell phone and ended up with a subprime mortgage. Then read the fine print. I just thought that was kind of cool.
Well done.
You can't
All right.
win it.
Ashley, bail us out. Recap the top stories, if at all possible, please.
Guys should take that.